Cancellations, cases on most cruise ships. Should you be cancelling? Well, we're going to tell you all about it because we're on a cruise ship in the Caribbean right now.
So we're going to give you all the cruise updates and information you need to know about cruising right now.
So first of all, let's talk about the Omicron variant and what the CDC have done recently. You probably already know, but the CDC have raised cruise to the highest level. Remember that this is not a rule, it's just a suggestion. They're saying that everybody, including unvaccinated people and vaccinated people, shouldn't really be cruising because of the numbers. Well, we completely and utterly disagree with this. Again, it makes no sense from the CDC to do this because they're not doing it anywhere else. And what they're failing to tell you is that on cruise ships, there's only been 1 to 2% cases of all the people on board the ship, compared to 15 to 30% of all people on land. So why aren't they doing the same rules for everywhere else? It's absolutely crazy. Even the Cruise Line International Association, so they're the body that look after cruise, have came out basically in disgust and says they can't believe that they're doing this. You have stadiums full of people, you can go to theme parks, you can go to flights with unvaccinated people, people who haven't had tests before they get on board. We just can't believe it, can we?
No, it seems really strange that they've yet again directed all of this at cruise, when at the same time, like you said, I could go to a concert, I could go to a theme park or even a football game and be mixing with even more people with less restrictions and less cleaning and safety measures in place.
Remember that cruise are also the only form of transport that actually report numbers of COVID on board. Nobody else has to do it, no other big resorts, nothing like that. They don't have to do it. That's why you know that there's COVID on board, because they actually test on board. And it's very strange for the CDC because the cruise industry is one of the most capable and prepared for the COVID pandemic. We have hospitals on board, we have full testing services, isolation regimes, they stay close to land so that you can get off if there's a problem. So we just can't understand it because the cruise lines have been pushed by the CDC to exceed above absolutely every other industry. We just can't believe it, can we?
And what you have to remember as well is that cruise lines have learned a lot since the beginning of this pandemic, and they have put in a lot of measures and barriers and safety barriers to make sure that if there is COVID on a ship, that they are contained as best as possible. Next up, you may be confused about what you're seeing in the media compared to what we are telling you. Well, the media really like to jump on the bandwagon and make a mountain out of a molehill, especially when it comes to the cruise industry.
Sensationalization.
Absolutely. We've been contacted by quite a few media organisations to ask us to give our accounts of COVID on the cruise and about being on a COVID ship.
Massive outbreaks and how many people have been affected, how many people are down. I mean, you would think that this was only happening on a cruise and nowhere else. As we said, remember guys, the number's 1 to 2% on average on cruise ships compared to up to 30% of people on land.
We too felt a little bit anxious about coming on this cruise. We didn't know what we were going to get ourselves in for. And when we finally got here, what we experienced was far from the way it's been portrayed in the press and in the media.
Yeah, if it's negative, the news love it. They love to sensationalise things. They love negative stories and they love to jump on the bandwagon. But in this episode, we're going to tell you exactly what it's like, what to expect, what's changed and all of that jazz. So let's take a look at some of the things that are actually affecting cruise and which may be of a concern. First of all, our flight cancellations. Now, these are happening a lot, especially in the United States. As always, we recommend that you arrive in plenty of time. Absolutely do not at this time fly on the same day of your cruise. Try to get here at least 24 hours before, and especially have a backup plan should something go wrong.
The flight and the airline industry are suffering the same issues that a lot of people in a lot of industries, including the cruise industry, are suffering.
Next up is entertainment on board and changes on board. You may have heard the stories of shows being cancelled and things like that. And it's true, it is happening just like the airlines, just like everywhere else in the world. Performers are coming down with COVID. And when that happens, it means they have to be isolated in cabins. So that means that shows can be cancelled. But for Royal Caribbean, for example, the cruise line we're on right now, they're doing a great job of making sure there's still plenty of entertainment on board, aren't there?
Yeah, it just may not be the entertainment that you were expecting. For example, on our sailing, we have seen one production show in the main theatre, and also they're putting on another production show in 270, but it's only one out of the two options that they have on this ship. But they are putting it on multiple times though.
Yeah, and another thing is that other crew, not just the production staff and the singers and dancers, it's the whole crew who are being affected as well. So they are short-staffed in some areas, but I have never, ever in all of my years of cruising seen crew work so hard as they do on Odyssey of the Seas. You would not think that they were undercrewed, because they're doing an absolutely marvellous job. And that's one of the huge benefits about cruising right now, is that the numbers are limited. So passenger numbers, for example, are limited. The capacities of the ship are much lower. So on our ship, there's just over 2,040 people on board. Our ship almost holds 6,000. So as you can imagine, it's absolutely fan-bloomin-tastic. I don't know how I'm going to go back to normal cruising again, because the ships are so quiet, so there's no lines. You get first choice for everything. You can book everything very quickly. It's just superb on this ship, isn't it?
Royal Caribbean did stop selling these sailings to limit the capacity, and this does help with the fact that there is a lot of crew that are not available to work at the moment.
So just like the entertainment, destinations can come and change as well. So like we said earlier on, pack your patience, and along with that, pack a little bit of flexibility as well. The world is a different place right now. It's all crazy, so just be happy that you're going on a cruise. Royal Caribbean and other cruise lines are genuinely trying to do everything they can to give you the best experience. We've had one of our ports changed, and you've just got to go with the flow. Different countries around the Caribbean and around the world are blocking cruise ships from going in, depending on the amount of cases on board. But companies like Royal Caribbean are transferring their crew who have COVID onto different ships, so like hospital ships, so they can do their quarantine on there, stop the spread on board, and bring their percentages down. So just be flexible with it. All of the ports we've been to have been absolutely fantastic.
And talking about ports being cancelled, a little tip here is I wouldn't pre-book any third-party shore excursions just in case your port is changed or cancelled at the moment. By that I mean any excursions with companies on land, or if you do, please make sure that they do have a very good cancellation rate if your port is missed or cancelled. But maybe just do something on the day, plan your day as soon as you get into the port. You've got to be flexible at the moment because things may change.
So next up are the procedures on board, especially Royal Caribbean, for example, for the cruise line we're on right now, and probably across every cruise line. They are tightening these procedures. So masks are back for vaccinated passengers as well. Everywhere inside the ship when you're not eating and drinking. Masks in the theatre as well. Outdoor areas where you can social distance, you are not required to wear a mask, so that's absolutely fine. But we've been doing this for 12 cruises now, so it's no different to anything else, is it?
No, it just feels like we've got so used to this now with the mask situation. And like we said, it's only really when you are up and moving around the ship or sat in the shows that you need to wear a mask. The rest of the time you're either sunbathing outside or eating or drinking.
And they are really hot on all of the procedures as well, so they're taking things very seriously, making people wash their hands, making sure people have their face masks on correctly. We've seen them tell people many a times to put their face mask on, but the procedures, they're a little bit tighter, but we've been doing this for years now, guys. They're no different to land. Nothing is ever 100% safe, but we feel safer on these ships than we do on land, because vaccinated tested and amazing facilities on board and procedures that are definitely really well thought out. They took a year or more to come up with these procedures to make them bulletproof, and so far they have not gone wrong. But yeah, like we said, it's spreading everywhere, including cruise lines. We're not scientists, but it does look like Omicron, looking at the data, is much less severe, and all of the crew who have been on this ship so far have been completely asymptomatic, and it's only been found they had COVID because of their weekly and bi-weekly testing, isn't it?
Yeah,
they didn't even know they had it.
Yeah, they're doing a lot more testing on the ships. They're testing the crew, and particularly the entertainment team, they're testing constantly. So that's how they're finding that the crew have COVID. It's not so much that they are coming down with any serious illness.
So next up, some things you need to be aware of and check before you cruise. You need to make sure you've got all of the right documentation. This includes the correct test if it's required for your cruise, the COVID passport, your vaccination information. You have to have that all with you. So we do recommend that you read thoroughly through your cruise line's procedures. For example, here at Royal Caribbean, we were checked multiple times for our vaccination records, especially looking at the dates and the number of vaccinations that we have. Boosters at this time are not required. You just need 2 full doses on Royal Caribbean with at least 2 weeks gone past, or 1 dose with the Janssen vaccine, but boosters are not required at this very moment. Who knows if that will change. We also had our insurance checked a number of times on our cruises over the last few months, and we also had our COVID test checked, and they checked it thoroughly, didn't they, David?
Yeah, they did. They wanted to see a proper COVID certificate to say that we are negative and that the date is correct. For this sailing, we had to take the test 2 days prior to our sailing.
We sailed on a Sunday, so the test had to be taken on a Sunday, a Saturday, or a Friday. So that's in the 2 days running up to the cruise. But please, please, please check this, because don't get caught out, because if you don't have these things, they are not going to let you on board. They really aren't.
Yeah, and it does vary. We're on Royal Caribbean in the Caribbean at the moment, but sailings on different parts around the world are got different rules. So please check, even if you're taking a Royal Caribbean sailing, what the rules are for your departure port.
Yeah, and as we said, they're changing all of the time, so it's pointless us going through them because they'll be changed in 2 weeks. Also check if you're coming from a different country, what your country requires, and when you're coming into the States, for example, make sure you've got all of the requirements for that as well, regarding testing, vaccination, filling in all of your forms and passenger locator forms and things like that. So some of the benefits, as we said, is that the ships are quieter. It really is fantastic. There's no fighting for some beds. Getting on and off the ship in ports is such a breeze. We found things like the food is even better because it's cooked fresher because there's fewer people on board. We're just having a really fantastic time, aren't we?
Yeah, really, really loving it. As I said earlier, we really did think about cancelling this cruise with everything going on, with everything that we've seen in the press and in the media.
Scaremongering.
And we're so happy that we didn't. We've had an amazing time on this cruise. It really does feel like sailing, but with maybe some small differences.
But if you're just happy to be on a cruise, so many people still can't cruise, like our friends in Australia and New Zealand and other places. We're so sorry for you. It really sucks. But we feel just so happy to be here. But if you're in doubt in any way, you have health conditions, you're scared, we're not telling you to cruise. We're telling you to do what's best for you. We're just giving you our opinion that we feel personally that cruising is safer than being at home. And it isn't a problem for us, is it?
It really isn't. Another benefit too is visiting some of these fantastic ports. Again, it's much quieter in the ports. Even the port that we visited today, there was 3 cruise ships in, but it still wasn't too busy. And also a lot of the locals on the island are very, very happy that we are there. We got a big warm welcome from every single place that we visited. A lot of these places rely on tourism, and especially from the cruise industry, they bring in a lot of money. So they're really happy that we are back. We are back sailing and we are back visiting some of these beautiful ports.
So what happens if you get COVID? Well, we can only talk about a Royal Caribbean, but basically you will be tested if you have any symptoms, and they'll probably do another test to confirm it and all of those close contacts with you. Then you'll be moved to an isolation cabin. This is if you're on the cruise, and then you will be made to stay there. You'll be fed, watered. We've heard really good stories. That sounds like a plant. You're going to be fed and watered. Honestly, we've had people who watch us send us messages to say that they are being treated like superstars. All the food and things and TV and Wi-Fi that you need, and then they're flying people home afterwards or putting them in a hotel for further isolation and covering the cost. But again, check with your cruise line. It could be very differently. So, should you cancel? Well, like we said, it's completely up to you. Personally, we didn't, and we feel like that was the best decision for us. We are double vaccinated and we are boosted, and we are very careful with the procedures.
It does come down to what your situation is, and if you can afford that flexibility just in case things get cancelled, get pushed or get extended.
But we really genuinely love cruise, and we want to support cruise, and we want you to support cruise as well. So we really want this thing not to go downhill again. We really don't. And if so many people cancel, the cruise lines are going to be forced to cancel more cruises. Norwegian Cruise Line are cancelling cruises at the moment. Royal Caribbean have also cancelled several sailings, including the Serenade of the Seas, Symphony of the Seas and Jewel of the Seas. These voyages were supposed to depart during the weekend. They also pushed back the return of cruising of Vision of the Seas to March. Just do your own research, look at the pros and cons, and don't just trust what the CDC and what the media are saying. Look at real reviews on sites like Cruise Critic. Watch our videos. We've had 11 cruises. You can see the experience that we've had all across those. And we can't say it enough. Make sure you are insured fully. Make sure you're insured for cruise travel. Make sure you're insured for all of the places that you're going to visit on the cruise. Make sure you're especially covered for COVID cover, including medical evacuation and all of that jazz as well. Just make sure you're fully covered. Just protect your behind, guys, and you'll be absolutely fine. Fingers crossed. Anyway, that's it. Well, thank you so much for joining us in this episode. We really hope you enjoyed it. Please do hit that subscribe button and the like button. It really helps us out. We're going to bring you more cruise news, cruise vlogs from all of the latest and greatest ships around the world.
And a big thank you as well to all of our patrons. If you'd like to get ad-free videos, you can join us on Patreon. Click the link in the description section below.
That's it till next time.
Happy cruising!